Tyler Perry is gay. I know he's gay. He knows he's gay. We all have friends that know he's gay. I've hung around Tyler Perry. I've known Tyler Perry for years.
I don't know, man. It's just like Tyler Perry, he paints a very negative portrayal of black men. We ain't that bad. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, Tyler Perry makes us seem like we ain't shit.
Once this harassment started, I was like, well, I gotta protect me because I'm saying no, and I don't want this person, as powerful as they are, to try to get in the way of my work. So I started recording. So I have them offering me money.
Tyler Perry sending grown men bottles of champagne over to their table back then.
First of all, let's be very, very clear. It is possible that there isn't anything funnier than a guy in a dress. And if that's the case, then it might also be said that there's nothing funnier than a black guy in a dress. Okay, well, I watched all of my friends throughout my entire life be able to dunk a basketball, but not me. So everybody can't do everything. So, you know, some of us make choices. I think it's not a biggest choice for others.
All right, let's get right into it. Tyler Perry, the man behind Madea, behind the wigs, the dresses, the billion-dollar studio, and the empire that turned him into one of the most powerful figures in Hollywood. But beneath the surface of all that success is a topic that sparked serious debate in Black Hollywood for years. It's controversial, it's uncomfortable, and a lot of people don't want to touch it. But we're going there. According to some of the biggest names in the industry, Tyler Perry's success story has a dark side. Some actors and comedians, including the outspoken Dave Chappelle, have called out what they see as a disturbing trend: straight black men being pushed into wearing dresses, playing emasculated characters, or being placed in roles that raise more than a few eyebrows.
I mean, I'm a conspiracy theorist to a degree. Like when I connect dots that maybe shouldn't be connected, I don't know. But certain dots, like when I see that they put every black man in the movies in a dress at some point in their career, I'll be connecting them down like, wow, all these brothers gotta wear a dress.
This isn't about hating on success. This is the reason behind the image. Why is it that so many powerful black men in Hollywood are being asked or pressured to put on a dress before they're handed a starring role? And why is Tyler Perry, more than anyone else, associated with that pattern? From the beginning, Tyler Perry's brand has been wrapped in drag. Madea was a hit, no doubt, and audiences laughed. But after a while, people started asking questions. Why is Tyler always in a dress? Why are other black men in his films doing the same? Why is this specific brand of humor so closely tied to black male femininity? Dave Chappelle famously walked away from a $50 million deal, in part because he didn't want to wear a dress for a sketch. He said no, and when he did, he opened the door to a conversation that has never really stopped. It made people ask whether something deeper is going on in Hollywood, a pattern that puts straight black men in positions where their masculinity is the punchline.
It's happened to me. I'm doing a movie with Martin.
Yeah.
The movie's going good. So I walk in the trailer. I'm like, man, this must be the wrong trailer because there's a dress in here. They come in. The writer comes in. I think he's the writer. He's like, Dave, listen, we got this hilarious scene where Martin's sneaking out of jail. So he disguises you as a and he put this dress on and what? Nah, I'm not doing that. I don't feel comfortable with that. That should have been in the discussion. What? You don't feel comfortable with it? I mean, it's a hilarious bit. All the greats have done it. So, well, if all the greats have done it, it's kind of hacky, right? You're right. So why don't we just not do it? Because I don't feel comfortable wearing a dress. Oh, come on, Dave. Listen, we got it all set up. We're supposed to shoot. Every minute you waste costs this much money. You know, the pressure comes in. He said, I'm not wearing no dress, man. I'm funnier than a dress. Just give me something funny to say. I don't need to wear no dress to be funny. What am I, Milton Berle? You know, we're going like this. And then finally he's like, and he leaves. And then like the director comes, Dave, it really would be great if you wear the dress. What is wrong? What is this, Brokeback Mountain in here? So then, wear the dress. I don't want to wear the dress. I want to wear this dress. You know what I mean? This is, oh gosh, this guy's so difficult. They leave. Now the producers comes, come on, David, would be so great. I mean, and then I started thinking about it. All the comics that I've seen, man, you know, strong brothers, why they be putting us in these dresses? But The minute it was clear, I was adamant. I'm not wearing a dress. I'm not wearing the dress. All right, fine. Think of something else. That comes back 10 minutes later. The whole new scene. Damn, how did you write the scene so fast? You know, it's like, so you gotta take a stand.
Now here's where it gets serious. Several major actors have reportedly refused to work with Tyler Perry for this exact reason. They've said no to scripts, no to roles, and no to the idea that being part of his projects means compromising who they are or how they're seen. These are not just random names. We're talking about respected men in the industry who have built careers on strength, dignity, and powerful representation.
Out on the Tyler Perry show, and like for whatever reason he gets to rap like that. And I know Tyler personally, he's not gay. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, you know, I was seeing around him, and all of a sudden he was rubbing off on me, and people thought like I was gay or something like that.
So what's really going on here? Is this just comedy? Is it all just a creative choice? Or is there something calculated behind the scenes? Something that critics say is more about shaping an image than telling a story. Today, we're going all the way in on Tyler Perry's legacy, the good, the bad, and the stuff no one wants to talk about. We're breaking down how his rise to power has affected black men in film, why some are calling it an agenda, and what it means when the industry keeps pushing the same tired tropes while silencing anyone who questions them. This isn't gossip. This is about truth. This is about representation, and it's about asking the uncomfortable questions that too many people are afraid to raise. So grab a seat, because we're about to uncover what's really behind the dress and why so many straight black actors are saying, I'm not doing that. Let's get into it. Now let's get into the real heat of the conversation. For years now, people haven't just been questioning Tyler Perry's creative decisions, they've been questioning him. Specifically, his sexuality. Is Tyler Perry gay? Is he on the down low? Why do these rumors never seem to go away? And why do some fans and even fellow actors feel like there's more to the story than what he's letting on? Let's rewind a little. Tyler Perry built his empire from scratch. This man literally started out writing scripts in his car, hustling play after play until he hit the big time. Now, he's got a sprawling studio complex in Atlanta, one of the biggest in the country. He's written and directed over 20 movies, dozens of plays, and several hit TV shows. So it's crystal clear, this man worked hard. Nobody's denying that. But when you hit a certain level of fame, especially as a black man in Hollywood, the spotlight gets hotter. And that spotlight started raising eyebrows about Perry's personal life, specifically about who he really is behind the Madea wig. The speculation has been swirling for years, and not without some fuel. Back in 2013, Perry launched The Haves and the Have-Nots, a hit soap opera that became a staple for his studio. During the casting process, he selected rising actor Tyler Lepley, and not long after, rumors began to spread. The two were seen together fairly often, and in typical internet fashion, fans and gossip blogs started whispering, were they more than just professional collaborators?
I think I was taking a picture with Alphonse, who plays Lil Murder, and people started off with the gay thing again. Like, I think if you have a space, like you were saying, Angela, if you have a space that people can't figure out, they may just tag it with whatever they can. They could just create a judgment, you know what I mean?
Lepley eventually had enough of the rumors and went on Angela Yee's Lip Service podcast to clear the air. He said straight up, Tyler Perry is not gay. According to Lepley, the gossip started simply because he debuted on a Tyler Perry show. He said being seen around Perry somehow rubbed off on him, making people assume things that weren't true. He chalked it up to people projecting onto a space they couldn't understand. If they couldn't put someone in a box, they just made up a label. And yet, many fans didn't buy Lepley's defense. In the comment section of that interview, people were quick to push back. They said Lepley had no business speaking for Perry, especially if Perry hadn't addressed it himself. Some fans even claimed Perry's tea had been out for years. The energy was clear, people weren't convinced, and they had receipts of their own to justify the ongoing suspicion. Let's talk about those receipts. One major reason people question Perry's sexuality is because of his commitment to dressing in drag for the Madea character. Now look, Madea is iconic. We all know that loud-mouthed, gun-toting grandmother with a Bible in one hand and a frying pan in the other. But as Madea's popularity grew, so did the discomfort among some viewers. They started asking, why does Tyler Perry keep returning to this character? Why does he keep putting himself in a dress, playing this exaggerated, sometimes over-the-top version of a black woman? And more importantly, what does it say about how he views black masculinity? Even other actors and artists have called it out. Way back in 2009, director and writer Spike Lee referred to Perry's Madea films as coonery and buffoonery, arguing that we could do better when it comes to representing black people on screen.
But I still think a lot of stuff that's on today is coonery and buffoonery. And I know it's making a lot of money, breaking records, but we could do better. That's just my opinion.
Perry later responded to the criticism by saying he was honoring the people he grew up with, his aunts, his mom, and women from his community. He insisted he wasn't trying to disrespect anyone, and in fact, he believed his work resonated deeply with audiences because they saw their own family members in those characters.
There's a certain part of our society, especially black people in the culture, that they look down on certain things within the culture. For me, I love the movies that I've done because they are the people that I grew up with, that I represent. So when someone says you're hearkening back to a point of our life that we don't want to talk about it, we don't want the world to see, you're dismissing the stories of millions and millions of black people. And that's why I think it's been so successful, because it resonates with a lot of us who know these women and these experiences, and Uncle Joe and so on and so forth.
But despite that defense, there's still a lot of suspicion. People started noticing that Perry seemed to hire a lot of muscular, attractive men in his films and plays. To some, that was just casting choices. To others, it felt like a subtle nod to something more personal. Plus, why is it that every time you turn around, there's another black man in a dress, especially in one of his movies? It's like Perry has made a whole career out of stripping men of their masculinity and wrapping it up in a wig, a floral dress, and a pair of orthotic shoes. And the scary part, he doesn't just do it once or twice. He does it so much that it feels intentional. You look at Tyler Perry's catalog, and it's clear this isn't just about creating characters. This is about programming, about repetition, about conditioning people to associate black men with femininity, passivity, even humiliation. We're talking about one of the most influential black figures in entertainment, a billionaire with his own studio. And what does he use all that power to do? Put men in dresses and call it empowerment. But who is it really empowering? You can't help but notice a pattern. When straight, masculine black men are shown in his films, they're either abusive, angry, cheating, or they're mysteriously absent. But when they're in drag, when they're loud, ridiculous, and overly exaggerated caricatures of women, suddenly they're front and center. Suddenly, that's supposed to be funny. That's supposed to be entertainment. But the deeper you look, the more it feels like he's trying to blur the lines of what it means to be a man, especially a black man, and not in a liberating way. Let's not pretend this isn't part of a bigger issue either. A lot of people have pointed out how often black actors are expected to put on dresses to get ahead in Hollywood. It's not a few, it's dozens. Maybe even over 70 when you start digging. From Richard Pryor to Wesley Snipes, from Martin Lawrence to Kevin Hart, the list keeps going. But the name that keeps popping up more than any other is Tyler Perry, because he didn't just wear the dress once, he built his entire empire on it. Madea isn't just a character, she's a symbol, and depending on who you ask, that symbol represents something different. To some people, she's just comedy, but to others, she's something more calculated, a way to break down the image of the strong black man and replace it with something easier to control, something softer, something more digestible. And when Perry plays her, he does it with no shame. He leans into it hard, high voice, over-the-top sass, waving a pistol in a purse like a cartoon character. But look a little closer, and the comedy starts to feel like mockery. The concern isn't just about wearing a dress, it's about what comes with it. When you see the same thing over and over again, black men being feminized on camera, it starts to seep into the culture. It changes the way people see us, and some folks even believe that's the goal, that Perry, knowingly or not, is playing right into an agenda that tries to turn strong, straight, masculine black men into jokes. And when you see how consistent the pattern is in his work, it's hard not to start asking questions. Now some might say he's just acting, it's all just comedy, but let's be honest, nobody's asking white male actors to play women this often, this repeatedly, this predictably. Sure, a few have done it, but not like this, not every year, not as the foundation of their brand, and definitely not in a way that seems to pressure others to follow suit. Because once Perry made billions doing it, the message was clear. If you want to succeed, maybe you'd better step into that dress too. And it's not just a few people online saying this. You've had big names in comedy and entertainment, people like Dave Chappelle, pointing out how strange this all is. Chappelle famously walked away from $50 million rather than be forced into another sketch that went against his principles. And one of the things he talked about was how often black men are put in dresses for laughs. He saw it as a form of control, of humiliation disguised as humor, and he refused to be part of it. That decision cost him money, but he never backed down. Contrast that with Perry, who embraced it completely and profited massively from it. The truth is, there's something deeper going on when a man like Tyler Perry uses his influence to put other men in that same position. Because let's be real, he's not just just doing this to himself. He's had actors around him playing flamboyant, overly feminized roles too. Whether it's in his plays, his sitcoms, or his movies, the trend stays the same. It's like he's shaping an entire universe where real masculine men barely exist, and when they do, they're either toxic or disposable. The saddest part, there's a whole generation of actors who might feel like they have to go down the same road just to get noticed. To be famous, you gotta give up something, and for too many of them, that something is their manhood, their identity, their self-respect. Perry set the blueprint: wear the dress, play the part, and you might just get the keys to the kingdom. But at what cost? So when we talk about Tyler Perry and his success, we also have to talk about what he's promoting, because success isn't just about money, it's about what you leave behind. And Perry's legacy, as it stands now, is one filled with broken portrayals of masculinity, endless scenes of cross-dressing, and a subtle push that says real men aren't welcome in his world unless they're willing to be rebranded, repackaged, and rewritten. And if we're being honest, maybe that's the most damaging part of all, because it's not just a joke, it's not just entertainment, it's an attack on what it means to be a man, and too many people are clapping along without realizing what they're really applauding. Then, there's the more serious side of this conversation. Some actors have come forward with claims that point to uncomfortable experiences working with Perry. Actor Brandon Jay shared a now viral story about his time on Meet the Browns, calling it the most stressful experience of his acting career. According to Jay, scripts were being rewritten at the last second, and Perry personally handed out new lines with barely any time for rehearsal. But here's where it gets even more intense. Jay said, Perry decided mid-shoot that his character should suddenly be gay and have a crush on his bully, which was completely different from what he had originally auditioned for.
So here's a story time about how filming Meet the Browns was the most stressful and hardest thing that I've ever done in my entire life. I had no idea that Tyler Perry Studios' schedule was so drastic. If you're working on a regular network show, they take a whole week to film an episode. Tyler Perry Studios, they film an episode in one day. The character was Jeffrey, a fat high school teenager who was very intellectual, who was getting bullied at school. I take 2 to 3 days to learn the entire script. On the day of filming, first thing we do is a table read. I know all of my lines. I'm ready to go. So the director, who is Alfonso Ribeiro Carlton in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, he starts to block us, telling the actors where to go, where to stand. Mr. Perry comes in, everything changes. So we literally run the entire episode for him, and he hates it. Does that mean I have to learn a whole new script? Yes, that's what it means. Mr. Perry, on the spot, starts rewriting the entire script, and he's feeding me the lines to say, and the director is kind of standing on the side like, you better do it, because if not, they will fire you. Here is where the shoe hit the fan. So in the middle of Mr. Perry changing up the scenes, he says, you know, I want Jeffrey to be gay, and he has a crush on his bully. That's not what I auditioned for. What?
Jay went along with it, but he made it clear that it caught him off guard and left him feeling uneasy.
So this is part 2 of my traumatic filming of Meet the Browns. So after Mr. Perry says we're gonna change the character and make him gay, I immediately get on the phone with my mom, because I'm like, is this customary? Can they just change a character like this? And she didn't really know the answer to that. So she got on the phone with my agent. My agent was like, absolutely not. If Brandon doesn't feel comfortable with playing this character, then he can walk from this, because you don't have to do anything that you don't feel comfortable doing. And then they call the casting director. Casting director is on the phone, and she's like, hey, I'm not on set today. I hear that they changed the character. Do you want to walk away from this project? Yes or no? At this point, I'm extremely overwhelmed. I really don't know what I want to do. I had waited years and years to work with Tyler Perry. It was the biggest dream that I had at the time. I want to tell this story. I want to play this character. I feel like it's mine, and I'm gonna do it. We go on break. I'm sitting in my dressing room, and in walks the assistant director. I have an entire new script with all new lines, pages and pages and pages. I have an hour to learn this stuff. I'm literally feeling the pressure right now. It's my first television gig, and I don't want to jack this up. Tamala Mann calls me into her dressing room. We're gonna run lines together, and I'm in her room freaking out. She said, you are here for a reason. You have been placed in this role, in this position at this time, because you can do this. You can handle this. She was literally a godsend. After that, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling ready. We go to lunch, and we come back from lunch, and guess what? They've changed the script again. Scrap the script we just gave you an hour ago. Here's draft 5.
And he's not the only one. In late 2023, actor Christian Keys took to Instagram to talk about his own troubling experiences. While he didn't name names, he described a powerful man in Hollywood who made several unwanted advances toward him, offering money, trying to get into his bed, and dangling career opportunities as bait. Social media did its thing, and soon people were speculating that Keys was talking about none other than Tyler Perry. He mentioned having receipts and even recordings from years back, which only added more fuel to the fire. Then there's Walter Lee Hampton, a YouTuber who once claimed he and Perry were friends. He posted a video in 2014 saying that Perry had asked him and other friends to keep a secret, fearing backlash from his largely church-going audience. According to Hampton, Perry didn't want to lose support from religious fans, especially those in the black community. Hampton said Perry's earliest supporters were black gay men, but that he eventually distanced himself from them to protect his image. That video stirred up a storm, and shortly afterward, Hampton appeared with serious facial injuries. He claimed it was an accident, a glass door incident, but the timing had people side-eyeing everything. On top of all this, Perry has always been a strong ally of the LGBTQ+ community. He's donated money, spoken out against discriminatory laws, and even opened a shelter for LGBTQ+ youth and homeless women on his Atlanta studio lot. While these actions are widely seen as positive, some skeptics argue that his activism is yet another hint about his own identity. And then there's his dating history, or lack of it. For a man of his fame and fortune, his love life has remained mostly a mystery. He's been linked to Tyra Banks, actress Tasha Smith, and the mother of his child, Galila Bekele, but none of those relationships ever felt public or deeply romantic. Even Tasha Smith once joked on the Wendy Williams show that she thought Tyler was asexual, saying he felt more like an uncle who doesn't. So when you line all of this up, the rumors, the roles, the strange casting choices, the allegations from actors, the lack of a public romantic life, it's easy to see why people keep asking, is Tyler Perry gay? Is he really just a hardworking creative who's misunderstood? Or is there a carefully crafted image being protected at all costs? And the worst part is that he keeps making these advances to random men.
How Tyler Perry was at Jack the Rapper. I don't know if he was at Jack the Rapper per se, but Jack the Rapper was in Puerto Rico. And me and my man was sitting at a table, Black, this kid named Black, pretty boy Black. We were sitting at the table at this nice restaurant. And 2 bottles of champagne came over to our table. I was like, damn, Black, you balling like that, bruh? So I know you got the bill. He was like, Gene, I thought you ordered that shit. I said, I ain't ordered nothing. What are you talking about? So I called the waitress. I said, yo, these bottles is about $200-300 a bottle, bruh. And you talking about we in early 2000s. You know, they're like $200-300 a bottle. I was like, hey, yo. Yo, this at the wrong table. You know what I'm saying? And she said, no. The gentleman over there sent the bottles over to the gentleman over here. And they pointed to my man Black. And I looked at the gentleman over there, and I looked at Black. I looked at the gentleman over there, and he's smiling. And then I looked at Black. I looked at the gentleman over there, and it was Tyler Perry. I was like, oh, snap. I said, yo, little ninja, let me find out you wake up in the morning and Madea's in the room with you. Man, he sent my man 2 bottles of champagne over. I was like, yo, Black, you know him? He was like, yo, no. I said, send him back. He was like, I'm drinking them. I said, all right, dude. Go ahead and drink them if you want to. Tyler Perry sending grown men bottles of champagne over to their table back then. So when I told that story, you know, I guess some people was mad at me because I told the story.
There's another piece of the puzzle that's just as telling. When you look at Tyler Perry's films and TV shows, you'll notice a striking trend. You rarely see A-list black male actors, or really any major names, anywhere in his projects. And that's surprising when you think about it, because Perry is one of the wealthiest black producers in Hollywood. He's built a multi-billion-dollar entertainment empire with a huge studio complex, private jet, sprawling network deals, and more. You'd think that kind of influence would attract all the big stars, yet they're largely absent. What gives? Let's unpack that. Perry's personal story is undeniably powerful. He's gone from homelessness, writing scripts in his car, to owning one of the biggest studios in the nation and flying around in his own jet. It's an inspiring rags to riches tale that could easily be the subject of his best work. And yet what do we get instead? More of the same formula. Perry in a dress playing Madea, or a variation thereof. That's it, over and over. It's like the more he succeeds, the more stuck the narrative becomes. That pattern has rubbed rubbed other filmmakers the wrong way. Take Spike Lee. He's made it clear that he thinks Perry's work reinforces stereotyping instead of challenging it. In interviews, he's referred to Perry's films and shows as coonery and buffoonery, comparing them to what one might expect from lowest common denominator television. He's not saying Perry isn't successful. He acknowledged how savvy Perry is, how he draws audiences and builds wealth. But his point is that popularity doesn't erase responsibility. Lee sees Perry's projects as pandering to outdated, damaging images of black life for the sake of mass appeal, and Lee's voice carries weight. He's a respected heavyweight in black cinema, close with legends like Wesley Snipes, Denzel Washington, and Samuel L. Jackson. When he aims, Perry's work echoes across the industry. To him, the problem isn't that the movies make money, it's what kind of stories they tell and how they portray people. Money doesn't automatically mean value. You can produce profits and still perpetuate harmful stereotypes. Lee has always argued for films that celebrate black culture without reducing it to caricature, and he believes Perry too often misses that mark. Perry didn't let those comments slide. He fired back, famously declaring on 60 Minutes that Spike Lee could go straight to hell if he had a problem. Perry said he was sick of hearing about it, basically telling Lee that his style of filmmaking and his choices were not Spike's concern. He doubled down on Madea, on his audience, and on the idea that he's simply building his own storytelling world on his own terms. Say what you want, but Perry's unapologetic posture struck a chord with many of his fans, but that response didn't derive consensus respect. Instead, many fans and industry observers were struck by Spike Lee's critique. They pointed out deeper issues. Perry's female characters often become caricatures. Black men in his works are frequently angry, abusive, or weak, and dark-skinned men especially are relegated to villainous roles. Swipe through the cast lists. Steve Harris in Diary of a Mad Black Woman plays a ruthless husband. Brian White is abusive in I Can Do Bad All By Myself, and Blair Underwood recounts limited opportunities for dignified roles at the early stages of Hollywood. That pattern speaks volumes. Chris Rock also joined the critique, joking that if Tupac were alive today, in a Perry movie, he'd probably be cast as the dark-skinned bad boyfriend. His point? Perry's films often lack positive portrayals of dark-skinned black men, especially the kind of respectful, complex roles historically the domain of actors like Denzel or Blair. Instead, they get pigeonholed as villains or comedic foils. That's not just casting choice, critics argue, it's storytelling impact, and it sends a message. What are we telling audiences about who's good, who's bad, who's lovable, and who's disposable? Cultural critics echoed the sentiment. Jamila Lemieux penned a blistering open letter to Perry, published by NPR, calling out the Madea character as disrespectful to the memory of real black women. She emphasized that mothers and grandmothers deserve dignity, not a tall man in prosthetics and a dress flopping around on screen. She applauded Perry's economic success and his refusal to bow to Hollywood norms, but she also said that wasn't enough. Representation still matters, and the stakes are higher than a comedy bit. Meanwhile, Perry has consistently defended himself. He insists that compromise isn't part of his career blueprint and that every creative choice, from casting to costume, is his alone. He sees Madea as a job uniform, a character he chose to embody because it resonates with his audience. He told Chappelle that nobody forced him into the dress. It was his own decision in service of an entertainment brand. Maybe to him, it's just work, but to critics, it's a repetitive image that limits black storytelling. Let's turn to another dimension of the conversation, the idea that Perry may not be as supportive of other black creatives as he presents himself to be. Sure, he's built a studio empire and provides jobs, but the treatment behind the scenes has raised eyebrows. In one famous case, several House of Pain writers were allegedly let go after pushing for union contracts and fair compensation around syndication profits. One writer described feeling slapped in the face because they had delivered over 100 episodes, but suddenly were expendable when money was changing hands. Others spoke up too, saying this fight wasn't just about them, but about future black writers fighting for earned fairness. That controversy didn't end there. In 2015, SAG-AFTRA and Actors Equity banned their members from performing in Perry's play, Madea, on the Run because his production company refused to sign union agreements. So while Perry claims he's all about creating opportunities, critics argue his model is built on pushing costs down and refusing labor rights. The same studio that the world sees as a symbol of black enterprise also carries a reputation for union busting and labor disputes. When you pull all of that together, casting biases, negative portrayals, heavy-handed stereotypes, labor conflicts, and lack of A-list collaboration, you start to see a complex picture. Tyler Perry is undeniably powerful. He creates content, he owns studios, he built a path from nothing. But power doesn't absolve impact. Many believe that internal messaging, from casting choices to narrative repetition, has long-term consequences for how black people are seen on screen. And let's not ignore the bigger cultural fallout. Hollywood has been embroiled in a surge of activism over the past several decades. Watch your Oscars, So White, watch your Me Too, calls for inclusion and scrutiny of workplace abuses. We've seen what happens when systems are left unchecked. Perry's works have existed somewhat insulated from much of that mainstream criticism until now. As actors and critics publicly scrutinize Perry, conversation about his impact increasingly falls into that larger context. Is he helping reshape Hollywood diversity or reinforcing its worst tendencies? Perry's critics argue that economic success and job creation aren't enough if they come at the expense of respectful storytelling. They believe that cultural representation can't be sacrificed for ratings. Spike Lee, Chris Rock, Jamila Lemieux, they're all voices saying smart, successful black creators can choose uplift instead of shock. They insist that black art should reflect strength, dignity, nuance, not just humor or melodrama designed for viral consumption. Meanwhile, Perry remains unapologetic. He insists he's always been independent. He's proud of his audience. He's transparent that he makes what he believes resonate, that he defines his own brand, and that critics are free to look elsewhere. But the missing A-listers, the recurring villains, the labor disputes, they don't vanish just because the studio is big or the bank account is bigger. A growing number of viewers and industry insiders ask the same question. How does long-term influence get wielded responsibly? What do you do with power when you gain it? Perry has the ability to open doors and shape narratives, but critics argue his choices have too often pushed a narrow vision of black life that doesn't challenge outdated stereotypes or embrace complexity. We haven't even discussed Madea's script content, the hyper-religiosity, the over-the-top confrontations, the trope of the suffering black woman rescued by faith. Those elements are iconic to Perry, but they're also part of the formula that critics say looks like a one-note record. He's been consistent, relentless even, and that consistency brings both admiration and frustration. Chris Rock's metaphor, imagining Tupac cast as the bad boyfriend, isn't just a joke. It's a pointed critique about whose stories Perry chooses to elevate and whose he chooses to belittle. Think about how many films cast the dark-skinned black man as the villain. This isn't random. These patterns reinforce a visual hierarchy, whether conscious or not. The conversation questions the nuance of representation. Perry's defenders point out that he employs many black people, tells stories about ordinary black neighborhoods, and insists that his approach honors the people he saw growing up with. But critics argue intention doesn't automatically equal impact. Even if he grew up working hard in the South stories, the repetition of caricature can overshadow any authenticity he claims to bring. At the end of the day, Tyler Perry's legacy is twofold. On one hand, he's a self-made entrepreneur, delivering entertainment to large audiences and building opportunities at scale. On the other side, his critics point to patterns in casting, storytelling, labor relations, and representation that reveal a troubling consistency. They call for evolution, not rejection, but evolution toward richer, more respectful portrayals of black humanity. To his credit, Perry has achieved what few can: ultimate creative control. No studio boss breathing down his neck, no network forcing rewrites. That autonomy is rare, but autonomy comes with responsibility. Critics ask, what comes next? How does someone with so much output decide to diversify the stories, the characters, and the behind-the-scenes relationships? The critique isn't that Perry stopped making films. The critique is that he broadened his lens, that he lifts not only through jobs, but through visions. He welcomes A-list actors without reservations, that his casting choices reflect more than caricature, more than stereotype, more than formula, that he reconsiders pressuring other creatives, actors, writers, crew to bend to his way without fair negotiation. The tension between Perry's success and Perry's impact is real. It's driving heated debate within Black Hollywood and beyond, because it forces a larger question. Is influence about scale or substance? Is success just about money and visibility, or is it about the stories you leave behind? Film and TV don't just entertain, they shape how communities see themselves. And when a single figure like Perry commands that kind of volume, the question of responsibility feels urgent. So this next chapter, it's not about rewriting Madea or defending Perry. It's about asking, what's the next phase for him, for his studio, for black representation on screen? Can he pivot toward more complexity without betraying his brand? Can he open the door wider without fear of losing the audience that built him? These are the conversations unfolding right now, because unlike criticism that fades with time, these contradictions haven't. They're only growing louder. So, what do you think? Comment down below and let us know. If you like this video, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to be the first to see my next video. I post updates like this every week where I uncover the secrets of your favorite celebrities.